I never believed in glitches in reality until I found a staircase in my apartment building that shouldn't exist. I'd lived in the Riverside Apartments for 3 years. It's one of those old brick buildings from the 1920s. 6 floors, nothing special. I knew every hallway, every corner, every creaky floorboard. Or so I thought. It started on a Tuesday night around 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep and decided to get some air on the roof access. Our building has this thing where tenants can go up there, and I'd done it 100 times. You take the main elevator to 6, walk down the hall past apartment 604, and there's a door with roof access written in faded letters. But that night, I noticed something different. Between the elevator and apartment 604, there was a door I'd never seen before. Not just a door I'd overlooked, but a door that felt wrong. It was older than the others, made of dark wood instead of the standard painted metal. No number, no label, just a tarnished brass handle. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was always there and I never noticed. But I walked this hallway constantly. I'd helped my neighbor from 604 carry groceries just last week. There was no door. I should have kept walking to the roof. Instead, I tried the handle. It opened. Behind it was a staircase going down. Not up to the roof? Down? The walls were that institutional green you see in old hospitals, and a single flickering bulb lit the landing. The air that came out was cold and smelled like copper and old paper. Here's the thing that made my skin crawl. I was already on the 6th floor, the top floor. There was nowhere for these stairs to go except down through the building. I already knew, but the angle was wrong. The staircase descended at the wrong position, in a direction that should have led straight into apartment 603. I pulled out my phone and started recording. My hands were shaking as I began walking down. The stairs were concrete, worn smooth in the middle like countless feet had walked them for decades. The walls had water stains, and that green paint was peeling in long strips. I counted 17 steps to the first landing. Then the stairs turned, and there were more going down. The temperature dropped with each step. My breath started fogging. In June, at the second landing, I noticed something that made me stop. There were scratches on the wall. Not random, but words, carved deep into the plaster. They said, "Stop counting the steps." My heart was pounding now, but I kept going. I had to know where this led. 18 more steps. Another landing. More words. Turn back while the numbers still work. I didn't understand what that meant, but I was committed. Third set of stairs. 19 steps this time. Shouldn't it be consistent? Another landing, another message. The bottom doesn't exist. Fourth set. I counted 23 steps. The bulb above flickered and went out. I used my phone flashlight, and that's when I realized something was very wrong. I looked at my recording time. I'd been walking for 40 minutes. That was impossible. It felt like maybe 5. Fifth set of stairs. I counted and lost track. Was it 31? 32? The numbers felt slippery in my mind. The walls were different now, too. No more green paint. Just rough stone like I was in a cave. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe. I heard a sound from below, footsteps, someone else climbing up toward me. Slow, deliberate steps echoing in the stairwell. I called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" The footsteps stopped. Then I heard my own voice coming from below, distant and distorted. "Hello? Is someone there?" Not an echo. Wrong timing, wrong tone. It was my voice, but separate, independent. I turned and ran back up. I climbed those stairs faster than I'd ever climbed anything in my life. But something was wrong. One kept climbing, and there were no landings. Just stairs. Endless stairs going up. My legs were burning, my lungs screaming. But I couldn't stop because those other footsteps were behind me now, matching my pace exactly. I don't know how long I climbed. My phone died. The darkness was absolute. I felt my way along the wall, hauling myself up step after step, and then suddenly my hand hit something. A door. I found the handle, yanked it open, and fell through. I was in the 6th floor hallway. The normal hallway. Apartment 604 was there. The roof access door was there. Everything was normal. I checked behind me and there was no door. Just a solid wall. I went back to my apartment and didn't sleep for 2 days. But here's what made me write this post. Last week, I ran into the guy who lives in 604, old man. Lived there since the building opened in 1928. I mentioned I'd been having trouble sleeping, and he gave me this strange look. He said, "You haven't been using that staircase, have you?" My blood went cold. I asked what staircase. He said there used to be a service, stairwell where they found the maintenance man in, 1952, apparently. The guy went down to check on something in the basement and never came back up. They searched for weeks, found the door to the stairwell open on the 6th floor, but when they went down, it just led to the normal basement. Nothing unusual. They finally found him 3 months later, still in the stairwell, sitting on a landing that didn't connect to any floor. He'd starved to death. They sealed it up after that, my neighbor said. Bricked over the entrance. But sometimes it comes back. Usually shows up for about a week, then disappears for years. I asked him how you know when it's safe. He looked at me with these sad, tired eyes and said, "You don't? My son found it in 1983. I haven't seen him since. I'm moving out next month. I don't care about losing my deposit." But I had to share this because last night I saw someone else go through that door. A woman from the 3rd floor. I tried to stop her, but she couldn't hear me. It was like I wasn't even there. She hasn't come back. It's been 4 days now. Her apartment is empty. Building management has no record of her. But I remember her. I remember helping her with her groceries. I remember her name. The door is still there. I can see it right now from my peephole. And tonight I heard footsteps in the hallway. Someone climbing, coming from nowhere, going nowhere. If you live in an old building and you see a door you don't recognize, don't open it. Some places aren't meant to be found. "3 months ago, I met my new neighbor, and I wish I hadn't. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where people actually wave when you drive by. The house next to mine had been empty for almost a year before he moved in. I'll call him Mr. Henshaw, though I doubt that's his real name. He looked to be in his 70s, thin, with silver hair and these very pale blue eyes that seemed to look through you rather than at you. He moved in with almost no furniture, no family, no friends helping. Just him and a small moving truck. I introduced myself the first day, brought over some cookies like a good neighbor. He was polite but distant. Thanked me for the cookies, made small talk about the weather, normal stuff. But when I turned to leave, he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Enjoy your time. You have more of it than most." I laughed it off. Thought he was just being philosophical. Old people say weird stuff sometimes. 2 weeks later, I ran into him at the grocery store. He was standing in the produce section, staring at a woman I vaguely recognized from the neighborhood. Just staring. When he noticed me, he smiled and walked over. The woman, he said quietly, she has 9 days. I asked what he meant. He just shook his head and walked away. That woman died exactly 9 days later. Car accident. I saw it in the local news. I told myself it was a coincidence. Had to be, but then it happened again. I was getting my mail when Mr. Henshaw came out to his porch. A jogger ran past someone I'd seen around the neighborhood for years. Mr. Henshaw watched him go by, then turned to me. 2 weeks, he said. Brain aneurysm. Very sudden. He won't feel much. I told him that was a horrible thing to say. He just shrugged and went back inside. The jogger collapsed and died 14 days later while running. Brain aneurysm. I started avoiding Mr. Henshaw after that, but it didn't matter. Every few weeks he'd tell me about someone else. The mail carrier had 3 months. The teenager who mowed lawns had 60 years, lucky kid. The woman who walked her dog every morning had 2 days, and she should call her daughter. Every single prediction came true. I finally confronted him about it a month ago. knocked on his door and demanded to know what he was doing. How he knew. Was he causing these deaths somehow? He invited me in. His house was almost empty. No pictures, no decorations. Just a chair, a small table, and bookshelves filled with journals. Hundreds of them. He sat me down and explained it very calmly. He said he'd been able to see death since he was 7 years old. When he looks at someone, he sees a number. Days, hours, sometimes minutes remaining in their life. He can't control it, can't turn it off. He just knows. I asked why he moved here. He said he spent his whole life moving around, trying to outrun it, but there's no point anymore. He's tired. He just wants to live somewhere quiet for his remaining time. I asked how much time he had left. He said 41 days from today. Then I made the mistake of asking the question I'd been dreading. What about me? He looked at me for a long moment, those pale eyes scanning my face. Then he got up and brought me something from his shelf. One of his journals. He opened it to a page dated the day after he moved in. There was my name, and next to it a number. I'm not going to tell you what that number is, but it's soon, much sooner than I expected. Here's what's been happening since I found out. I notice things differently now. Every morning feels heavier. Every conversation with my family feels loaded with things I should say but don't. I catch myself memorizing faces, voices, moments, just in case. But the worst part? Other people have started coming to Mr. Henshaw. Word got out somehow. People knock on his door at all hours, begging him to tell them their number. He turns most of them away, says knowing doesn't help, but some people insist. Last week, a young mother came by with her infant. She begged him to check her baby. He refused. She kept begging, crying, saying she needed to know if her child would be okay. Finally, he looked at the baby, and his face went completely white. He told her to go home and spend every second with her child. She asked how long. He said, "Please just go home." She screamed at him, demanded a number. He finally whispered something I couldn't hear. She collapsed right there on his porch. Her husband had to carry her to the car. The baby was crying. That was 8 days ago. I haven't seen them since. Their house is dark. I've thought about asking Mr. Henshaw if there's any way to change it. If knowing the number gives you any power over it, but I already know the answer. He's been watching people die his entire life. If there was a way to change fate, he would have found it by now. The strange thing is how normal everything seems. I still go to work, still pay my bills, still make plans for next month even though I won't be here. What else can I do? Stop living because I know when it ends? Yesterday I saw Mr. Henshaw sitting on his porch. He looked frailer than usual. I asked if he was okay. He said he miscalculated slightly. Not 41 days? 38? Then he looked at me and said, "I'm sorry I told you. I thought it might help. It never does." I wanted to be angry, but I couldn't. He's lived with this curse for over 60 years, watching everyone around him die on schedule, knowing exactly when he'll die too, never able to save anyone or change anything, just witnessing. I asked him what happens when his time comes. He said he doesn't know. In all his years, he's never seen his own number change. It's always been precise to the minute. He's curious if he'll simply stop existing or if there's something after. He said, "I'll know in 38 days. You'll know sooner." I've started writing letters to my family, things I want them to know. I'm not sure I'll give them the letters. How do you explain that you know you're about to die without sounding insane? Without mentioning the old man next door who sees death? The hardest part is pretending everything is normal, smiling, making jokes, acting like I have a future. Last night I dreamed I asked Mr. Henshaw if there was anyone he'd ever seen with unlimited time, anyone whose number never ran out. He said yes once. A child, maybe 5 years old, at a hospital. No number at all. Just blank. He said he'd never seen anything like it before or since. I asked what it meant. He said he didn't know. Maybe the child was immortal. Maybe already dead. Maybe something else entirely. I woke up at 3 a.m. and looked out my window, Mr. Henshaw was sitting on his porch in the dark, staring up at the stars. Just sitting there, waiting. I have 17 days left. I know because I saw it in his journal. 17 days, 4 hours, roughly 20 minutes. I don't know what's going to happen. Car accident? Heart attack? Something random and unavoidable? What I do know is that Mr. Henshaw will mark it in his journal. He'll write down my exact time of death, accurate to the minute, and he'll add me to the list of thousands of people he's watched die over his lifetime. Then he'll sit on his porch for 38 more days and wait for his own number to run out. If you're reading this, it might already be too late for me, but I needed to write this down. I needed someone to know. If you ever meet someone who knows when you're going to die, don't ask. Trust me, you don't want to spend your final days counting down. I took a job at a 24-hour gas station on Route 47 because I needed money and didn't mind working nights. The pay was surprisingly good for what seemed like easy work. I should have known something was off. My manager, an exhausted-looking woman named Diane, trained me for one shift before handing me a laminated list of rules. She said to keep it behind the counter and follow every single one. No exceptions. When I started to ask why, she just repeated, no exceptions. I thought it was corporate policy stuff. I was wrong. The rules are: 1. Lock the door at exactly 11:47 p.m., not 11:45, not 11:50, exactly 11:47. 2. If someone approaches after you lock the door, do not open it, no matter what they say. 3. The bathroom light must stay off between midnight and 3 a.m. 4. If you hear knocking from inside the storage room, ignore it. Do not open the door. 5. A man in a blue jacket may come to the counter. Sell him only black coffee, nothing else. Do not look at his face. 6. If all the lights flicker 3 times, crouch behind the counter until it stops. 7. Never count the customers. If you realize you've been counting, start over from 1. 8. The phone will ring at 2:17 a.m. Answer it. Say nothing. Hang up after you hear the dial tone. 9. If a child asks for help finding their parents, tell them their parents are waiting outside. Point to the door. Watch them leave. 10. Your shift ends at 6 a.m. Leave immediately. Do not stay to chat with the morning shift worker. My first week was quiet. I followed the rules without anything weird happening and started to think the whole thing was just Diane hazing the new guy. Then week 2 happened. It was a Thursday night. I locked the door at exactly 11:47 p.m., watching the clock tick over. At 11:53, someone tried to open the door. A woman in a red coat. She pulled on the handle, then knocked on the glass. She said her car broke down and she needed to use the phone. I pointed to the cell phone in her hand. She looked down at it, confused, like she'd forgotten she was holding it. Then she looked back up at me and her face was wrong. The features were slightly off-center, like a mask that didn't fit quite right. She kept knocking, saying she needed to come in, that it was cold, that something was following her. I turned away and busied myself with restocking cigarettes. When I looked back, she was gone. At 12:15, I heard the bathroom door creak open. I'd kept the light off like the rules said. Someone walked out. I couldn't see them clearly, just a shape moving through the shadows. They walked down one of the aisles, footsteps echoing on the linoleum. Then silence. I checked the aisles. Nobody there. Both doors were still locked. At 1:30 a.m., I heard knocking from the storage room. Slow, deliberate knocks. 3 at a time. I ignored it, kept my eyes on my phone, scrolling through nothing. The knocking continued for 20 minutes, then stopped. At 2:17 a.m. exactly, the phone rang. I picked it up, silence, then breathing. Then a voice that sounded like mine said, "Remember to count them." The dial tone came on. I hung up. At 3:42 a.m., a man in a blue jacket came to the counter. I kept my eyes on his chest as I poured his black coffee. My hand was shaking. I could see his reflection in the security monitor, except his reflection didn't match his body. In the reflection, he was facing the other direction. He paid an exact change and left without speaking. The rest of the night was quiet. I left at 6 a.m. sharp, and Diane came in looking like she hadn't slept. She asked if everything was okay. I nodded. She said, "Good, you followed the rules." That was 3 months ago. It's gotten worse. 2 weeks ago, I broke Rule 7. I didn't mean to. I was bored and started counting people who came in. 1, 2, 3. Normal customers? 4, 5, 6. When I got to 12, I realized what I was doing. I started over. 1, 2, 3. But then I noticed customer number 3 was the same person as customer number 6. Same clothes, same face. They bought the same items. Paid the same way. Like a loop. I started over again, but it kept happening. The same people cycling through. I counted up to 30 before I forced myself to stop. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely scan items. When I looked up, all 30 people were standing in the store, perfectly still, staring at me. Then the lights flickered once, and they were gone. Store empty. Doors still locked. Last week, a child came in at 1 a.m., maybe 7 years old, wearing pajamas. She asked if I'd seen her parents. Rule 9. I told her they were waiting outside and pointed to the door. She didn't move. She said, "Are you sure?" "I've been looking for a long time." I repeated it. "Your parents are outside? Please go to them." She stared at me with these hollow eyes and said, "When did you last see your parents?" I couldn't remember. I tried to think back, but my memory was fuzzy. When was the last time I'd talked to my mom, my dad? The girl smiled and walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned back and said, "You've been here longer than you think." After she left, I checked my phone. I'd worked 5 shifts a week for 3 months. That's about 60 shifts. But my bank account showed deposits for 93 shifts. I asked Diane about it. She looked uncomfortable and said sometimes time moves differently on night shifts. She said not to worry about it. Just follow the rules. 3 nights ago, something happened that made me seriously consider quitting. I was restocking shelves at 4 a.m. when I noticed something on the security monitor. The camera shows the gas pumps outside, the parking lot, and part of the road. There was a car at pump 3, but there was no car when I looked out the window. Just empty pumps. I watched the monitor. A person got out of the invisible car. They walked toward the store. I could see them on the camera, clear as day. But when I looked at the door, nobody was there. They walked right through the locked door on the monitor. I spun around. The store was empty. But on the monitor, the person was walking down aisle 4. I ran to aisle 4, nothing. I watched the monitor. The person came to the counter where I was standing. They reached out and touched the back of my head. I felt it, fingertips on my scalp. Ice cold. I ran outside and sat in my car until 6 a.m. Yesterday I tried to quit. I called Diane and told her I was done. She was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Check your contract." I'd signed a standard employment agreement. Minimum wage, flexible hours, 2 weeks notice for termination. But when I pulled it out to check the termination clause, there was a new section I didn't remember. Handwritten in red ink. Employment continues until release is granted. Release is granted when a replacement is found. Replacement must work 1 full shift before current employee is released. I didn't write that. I know I didn't, but it was there in handwriting that looked almost like mine. I called Diane back. She sighed and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't want this for you. Find someone to take a shift? Train them. Then you can go." I asked what happens if I just stop showing up. She said, "You won't, you'll try, but you'll be back." They all come back. So I'm working tonight. Same shift, same rules, and I'm starting to notice things that terrify me. The store looks different, older, the products on the shelves are brands I don't recognize. The cash register is a model from the 1990s, but yesterday it was modern and digital. I saw a newspaper someone left behind. The date was 2003. I looked in the bathroom mirror during my break and I looked older. Not much, just tired. But my uniform was different, faded, like I'd been wearing it for years. There's a photo behind the counter. Employee of the month. It's me. But the date on the photo is from 15 years ago. I would have been in high school. I think Diane was right. Time moves differently here. I think I've been working here much, much longer than 3 months. I think the people who come in after the doors lock aren't customers at all. And I think the reason we can't count them is because if we do, we'll realize we're counting the same people over and over. People who've been coming here for decades. Maybe longer. I found old employment records in the storage room. Names of people who worked here. The oldest date back to 1952. Every single employee worked the night shift. Every single one has the same note next to their termination date. Transferred to customer base. The last employee before me was named Raymond. His file says he worked here for 37 years. Started in 1986. The note says he was transferred in 2023. I saw Raymond last week. He came in at 2 a.m., bought a coffee. Didn't speak. His eyes were empty. I'm writing this from the gas station. It's 3:30 a.m. The knocking from the storage room started 20 minutes ago. It's louder tonight. More insistent. I'm going to try something. I'm going to break a rule. Maybe if I break enough of them, they'll let me go. Or maybe I'll end up like Raymond. Just another customer coming back night after night, trapped in a loop I don't understand. If anyone is reading this, please. I need someone to take one shift. Just one. I'll train you. I'll pay you myself. I just need to get out. The knocking is getting louder. It sounds like it's coming from right behind me now. The storage room is across the store. The lights just flickered 3 times. I'm supposed to crouch behind the counter. I'm not going to. I'm going to turn around and see what's actually knocking. I'll update if I can. I hope I can.